The next thing that we look at is denial. We eventually get to this point when I deny that it's a real issue. So it's in this stage, that's what you're saying. You're saying, I got no issue. There's no problem. So we are not willing to accept that we have a need. This is that whole point where you're not looking for any help, you're not looking for anything. You do not even want to realize that there is a need there. The other part of denial is that we get to the point where we say that nothing could be any different. There is no other way of living. That this is my life. Plain and simple. So again, in the denial, you're still continuing that survival mode. Because you're still this idea that there is no other way of living. There is no other option for me. But as you're in this, as we talk about these as being in stages, there comes a point when we get to that next part of denial, when we begin to start transitioning to this idea that I have a problem, that I have a need, that there is this thing in my life that I need help with. And it's at this point that you begin to move out of this stage of denial, begin to approach into our next area. So this next area that we're looking at is the realization that I have a need. And in this stage, the person discovers, I have a need. So if we look at the parable that we were talking about, or that man at the poolside, for all those years of his life, he had sat there begging. It was at a point where I'm just merely surviving. People bring me here. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to beg for money so I can survive and live. Maybe if I get lucky, maybe somebody might drop me in the pool. But I'm just here begging. I'm taking care of myself. Maybe for many years, maybe got to the point that he didn't even try to get in the pool anymore. He began to deny the fact there was a real problem. And then we see very quickly a realization that there was, in fact, a need. So one of the first parts is that awareness, that realization. Now, this could come at the very end of that denial phase, and they kind of blend here a little bit. And into this next part here is where I realize there's an awareness, the fact that I need help. The next thing that comes in, I begin to accept the fact that there's a need. It's one thing to be aware of it. It's another thing to say, okay, I need help. Of course, if you've been through anything, you know that there's a point when you're denying something, you can't get help because you're not willing to accept it. This is a point where I'm aware of the problem, but at a point I can still not want any help. So there comes that point when I begin to accept the fact that I need somebody to help me, that there's a need there.